Are franchise expos dead? That's what we're talking about today.
This is the Franchise Pitfalls and Profit Show. Each week, we bring you the challenges and triumphs of being in the franchise development and consulting business. The things you need to make money faster. And now your host, one of the most successful franchise developers in North America, Don Shin.
Hi, thanks for being with me. Are franchise expos dead? Is exhibiting in a franchise expo something that's worthwhile and a good investment for franchisors? That's what I want to talk about today. And we really today want to get some conversation and some dialogue going about this. So I'm going to ask you at the end of the broadcast here to give me your thoughts. Make comments. That's really what I want you to be doing today, because I really want your feedback on this one. For years, the brand I was with, we would go to these expos. We would exhibit. We would make the investments in all of the large shows, and even in some what I would call more kind of citywide shows. But they were big, top 10, top 20 metropolitan areas in the United States. So they had good traffic and they had a fair amount of exhibitors. But the particular brand I was working with, we just, as far as I know, we almost never got any sales, certainly never got a good return on investment for that. But there were a lot of brands there. And so it was really, really worthwhile, I think, both for exhibitors and for buyers. Before the internet was really there, these franchise expos or franchise shows were really a great opportunity for buyers to get it direct information from the companies. And so there were advantages for the buyers to go there. They could see a number of different things that they were looking for, and many, many things that they weren't even looking for. So but what I started to notice is probably about, it might have been about 8 or 9 years ago, where the shows were not as well attended by the exhibitors, by the franchisors. Because again, the shows I'm talking about were years ago were exclusively franchise expos. But all of a sudden, the shows I started to attend, I started to see the same number of exhibitors, but all of a sudden there were business opportunities also being displayed at or exhibiting at the expos. And so the flavor of the expos really, to me, had really, really changed. Now, the traditional franchisors that were doing pretty well in these shows would still be there. But what I started to notice about the traffic, the foot traffic was probably still about the same as far as volume. But what I started to notice was that the characteristics of the candidates, of the buyers at the expos, were very, very different. And not to be rude or anything, but the phrase that kind of floated around the expos among the exhibitors was that the folks here have a few $1,000s in their burning a hole in their pocket to buy something, and so. So it was really, really interesting, the dynamics of the exhibitors and the whole dynamics of the show, including the characteristics and the dynamics of the attendees, of the potential buyers, had dramatically changed. So what I want to talk about is that, then let's say the pandemic has hit now 2 to 3 years ago, and so. Obviously, the shows weren't even going on. Nobody was attending, and yet franchise sales continued to be made. And so recently attended the IFE, and which as far as I know, and as far as my own personal experience, was the largest franchise expo of its kind, maybe in the world, certainly in the country, the one in New York City. And yet when I went there, I was so disappointed, because you could literally see empty space in the back of the hall where there were no exhibitors. And when I used to go to the IFE in New York, that exhibit hall was packed with exhibitors and vendors and suppliers and meeting spaces and presentation areas, wall to wall. And so that's why I wanted to talk about this. The benefits of the shows can certainly can still be that the buyers get to see a number of brands at the same time. So that's a benefit. A concentrated amount of hours walking the show, you're going to see a lot at one time. The other benefits are to the franchisors in particular. Those are most likely probable buyers of something. So that's good. That foot traffic is going to bring you buyers as opposed to tire kickers. Although I'm sure there's tire kickers in there. For the consumer, again, there's many options to see, and they actually get to meet the representatives. I mean, I think that's key for the consumers. They get to meet somebody as opposed to, sometimes, I don't know about you, but sometimes I get so frustrated with the automation of a website or the automation of something online. Sometimes I just want to talk to somebody. And so, Franchise Expos certainly give buyers the opportunity to actually meet a company rep, get direct information, ask good questions, have a conversation and a dialogue. And it also, saves them a lot of time. Could they reach hundreds of franchise concepts by, through 2 to 3 hours on the internet, on their computer? No, they couldn't. So the shows certainly are going to save the consumer, the potential buyer, some time. For the franchisors, it's a great lead source. The traffic that's going to come in there, the people you can, run into the middle of the aisle and pull into your booth. So it for some brands in particular, I think it can be a good lead source. The other piece of it is, again, if somebody's searching the internet, they might be looking for restaurants and yet you're a home services kind of a business. They may not have ever thought of home services, but being at the expo and they see you, they maybe consider a concept of owning a business that they had not originally thought about. But the downside is the traffic has been going down significantly. It is very expensive to exhibit, put somebody up for a couple of days in a hotel in a big city. The man hours expended at the shows, all for lower traffic. And then, as I said, in some of even the very, very big shows, the candidates that the franchisors will probably want, the person that's more interested in investing $100,000 plus or six figures versus the person that's looking to invest $5,000. So at many of the large but more regional shows, the traffic is very, very different. And so the lead generation for the franchisors is dramatically different. Well, so those are my comments. Those are my thoughts. But I really would love to have you give me your thoughts in the chat room where you found my broadcast and my podcast. I want to know, has COVID permanently, finally, once and for all, killed these kinds of things? Are they dead? Will they ever come back? Again, let me hear what you have to say. I would love to hear your thoughts because I want to know as to how to advise my clients, whether these are good or not. I will say, my last thing I will say, I'm not trying to beat up the IFE, but I will say that some of the tried and true ones I have seen for 23 years, franchisors that I've seen exhibit for 23 years, were not there. So again, my questions, I'd love your feedback. Has COVID killed these? Will they ever come back? Do you think that franchise expos are still good for both the consumer and the franchisor?